Welcome to the Savage Nation. With us is the most important man on the horizon for the future of America. I make no mistake in telling you this. I have backed Donald Trump from the beginning for one reason. He is most likely to be able to defeat Hillary Clinton and most likely to bring us back our borders, language, and culture. Without further ado, the man of the hour, Donald Trump. Welcome to the program, Mr. Trump.
Thank you, Michael, and you have been amazing. But wouldn't you maybe be the most important man above me, perhaps? Powerful voice.
Now I know that they've tempered you, Donald. Somebody behind the scenes is starting to temper you a little bit. You're giving me a compliment. That's a good sign.
It's been amazing. What's going on has been amazing. So,
Donald, tell us about how. Let me ask you this: all the polls in New York has an actual election, right? It's not like Colorado where the party apparatchiks steal elections.
People actually vote as opposed to Colorado and Wyoming.
Shocking. They're allowed to vote in New York. I can't believe it. How do Ted Cruz followers support a situation where the voters are cut out of the process and call themselves revolutionaries of the right? How does that work, Mr. Trump?
Because it's establishment, and what happened is, they said they didn't change anything. They totally did. When I ran in June, I announced, June 16th, and in August, and they did some polls and some numbers, and they said, wow, Trump is going to do great in Colorado. So they changed it, so I couldn't do great. They went into a vote, so the bosses took it over, and that's what happened. So they said they didn't change, but they totally changed, whether it's RNC or whoever's running it. They changed, and I didn't want to waste millions of dollars sending people there 4 or 5 months early, so I just decided not to do it. And Wyoming was the same thing.
It came out today that the Colorado lawmakers, I call them lawbreakers, who voted to scrap the election are Ted Cruz delegates. I'm sure you're aware of that, right?
It's disgraceful. It's a disgrace.
So where are you in New York right now, where there is no such game playing? It's a straight-out vote in a primary, right, amongst Republicans. What do the polls show right now, Mr. Trump?
Well, they're showing very good. They're showing like 54%. Some have it 60%. Those are the people that know me the best. I've been all over the state, Michael. I've been in, just got back Rochester and Syracuse, and tonight I'm going to Albany. I was in Poughkeepsie and out on Long Island in Bethpage and Suffolk and all over. And the places are, you look at what's happening to our country. This is a microcosm of the country, but you look at what's happening with the empty plants that we have where everyone's left for Mexico and other places. It's a disgrace. So we'll change that.
Well, Donald, let's talk about income taxes. It's a big issue right now. On the Drudge Report, 45% of Americans pay no federal income tax. What is your tax plan? Is there a short version of it that we can hear about on the Savage Nation today?
My tax plan brings taxes way down. First of all, it simplifies just to 4 groups instead of having 7. And, they have so many different groups and with all of the things involved. Everybody needs to go out and hire CPAs from Washington or the whole thing is crazy. Lawyers. My plan simplifies it and cuts the taxes tremendously for the middle class and also cuts the taxes for businesses so businesses can compete. They can't even compete now, Michael. And if you look at taxes in this country, we're the highest taxed nation in the world. My tax proposal cuts them far lower than anybody else, and it's going to reignite the country to start working again.
It is do you know that in Russia and China there is no inheritance tax, Mr. Trump? I'm sure you're aware of that.
Well, I've heard that, but they have other problems.
Well, no, I understand that, but what an incentive it would be in America if we could eliminate such an onerous tax on money that was already taxed. It's crazy. What if I work all my life and I have a family farm and I want to leave it to my grandchildren and I give it to the grandchild and it's worth $1 million and she has to pay $500,000 in taxes and she doesn't have it and she has to sell the farm in order to instead of inheriting it? That doesn't sound too fair to me. But let's move on to the next topic, which is not only that, but the trade war against China. So everyone's saying, oh, Donald Trump's idea of a trade war with China. I don't see it as a trade war. You called for a common sense set of tariffs, which I've called for in 3 of my last books. Why is that a trade war?
First of all, it's not a trade war. By the way, getting back to your other, though, just for a second, it's called the death tax, which is really what it is, and it's double taxation. Some people could say it's triple taxation, but it is absolutely killing people that have farms and other businesses. They leave them to their children, and the children have to sell their business, oftentimes at a tremendous discount in order to pay the tax. As far as China is concerned, Michael, they are very upset with me because I'm the first one that said that China is ripping off the United States, and they actually issued a release from the Chinese government, the highest officials, saying that Donald Trump is wrong. Well, the fact is, we are in a trade war already. The trade war is lost by us because China charges tremendous tax and makes it impossible practically for our companies to go into China. But we open up our borders to China, and their stuff pours in, and we charge them no tax. So it isn't. And by the way, we have a trade deficit with China of $505 billion. So we are not in a war. We've lost the war to China. But
you're saying, but if you put on tariffs, they're certainly not going to stop selling to us. What they're going to do is grumble about it and pay the tax very happily, wouldn't they? Because they need the market here.
Happen, number one. Number two, we're going to start creating jobs in our country because they got there because they devalued their currency. That's how they got there, and that's why nobody's making anything in our country anymore. So they devalued their currency. That's how they got there in the first place, which in theory is virtually illegal and certainly morally illegal. They're not supposed to be doing it. They do it every chance they get. And I don't know, I hope you saw it, but I was very proud of it, where the Chinese government issued a statement about Trump yesterday, and they actually say that we're the ones that are breaking the rules and regulations, and it's not. They charge tax to go over there, and they make it impossible practically for our companies to compete and to go over to China. And
absolutely.
Frankly, we lose so much money dealing with China, we have no choice but to do what we have to do, and the politicians aren't smart enough to realize it.
Donald, in my last book, Government Zero, I made a mention of the fact that we need to elect someone to run America like a business, not an empire. And so you have a lot of people saying, well, what? Donald Trump's only a businessman. We don't need a businessman. Why don't we need a businessman? Isn't that the essence of the popularity of your campaign? Is that the common sense business approaches that you have applied in your own business dealings is what you'd like to apply running America? Isn't that fundamentally what you're saying?
It is, Michael, but we also have to have big heart. You know, it is somewhat different than business because you really need a lot of things. You need tremendous compassion, tremendous heart. We have to take care of Social Security. We have to take care of Medicare. We have to take care of our people. We have to come up with, a plan to replace Obamacare, which is a total disaster. We'll repeal it and replace it. So you could make the case it's very similar in certain ways, certainly with budgetary things, but it's also, you need heart, you need compassion, you need a lot of leadership that is a somewhat...
Yeah, but Donald, we can't take care of the world's poor, who Obama is importing by the millions in order to get them to vote Democrat for the next 200 years. Of course we need compassion, but it's for our own citizens, not for the whole... We can't give away our tax dollars for the world, can we?
We can't, and we're in trouble, and we're bringing in people from Syria that we have no idea who they are, where they come from. There's no documentation. They could be ISIS. They could be who knows what they are. And
right.
We're going to have problems like you've never seen before. Now, if I get elected, we're going to solve those problems. Believe me, we're going to solve them. We're going to solve them fast. But we have a potential to have problems like this country has never seen before based on what Obama's doing.
Donald, Hillary Clinton has gotten very vicious about you recently. She called you a cancer. And yet I very rarely hear you say anything negative about her. Why is that?
Well, I've really held my fire a little bit till I get rid of the final two, but I've started hitting her now. 2 months ago I hit her very hard, and she went way down in the polls after that, and then Bernie got all the credit, which is fine, and, obviously he's winning almost every week. I don't even know how she can win. The guy is beating her every week, and I'm no fan of his, that I can tell you. No, but I hit her very hard. In speeches, I'm going up to Buffalo in a half hour. I'm leaving, and we're going to have over 20,000 people in Buffalo, and I hit her very, very hard all throughout New York State. Look, she's a disaster. In fact, I call her Crooked Hillary. She's crooked, but I call her Crooked Hillary, and she's been hit very, very hard, actually.
But, Donald, you look at a city like Buffalo, you look at some of the old factory towns in New York. Many of them were, of course, hit, a long time ago. But when Bill and Hillary Clinton were running America, Mr. Trump, it was they, through NAFTA and the other trade deals that were totally lopsided, that permitted China to come in here and move whole factories to China. That's how they rebuilt their nation, was with American factories. They took factories out of Schenectady, out of Buffalo, out of Ohio, out of Illinois. They took them out of the small towns. They bought every lathe, every piece of equipment, and they moved them to China. And from there, they rebuilt their entire nation. but it was Hillary Clinton who did it. She was the co-president while her husband was busy doing other things in the Oval Office.
Yeah, well, that's true. But NAFTA is what has absolutely decimated the country. I've been all over the country, and I look at factories. You go up to New England. It was unbelievable, some of the things I've seen up there. And when I left Syracuse, or when I left Rochester just a few days ago, and when I leave these places, and now I'm going up to Buffalo tonight, what NAFTA has done to this country is a disgrace, and that's a Clinton baby. And it will be so loud and so clear during this process. And we're going to win. We're going to beat Hillary. I'm the only one that's going to beat Hillary. I think I can win New York against Hillary. Look how well I'm doing. Now, we have to see. The people tomorrow, Michael, have to get out and vote. But I think we have a good chance to beat Hillary in New York. That would be a whole game changer.
Well, I hope so. And I know that you're heard on this station, on WABC and surrounding stations in an enormous amount. Before you go, Donald, here's a personal question. I've been attacked for the 22 years I've been in radio for being too patriotic. They call me every name under the sun. Fascist, Nazi, you name it. You've seen it all. I want to know how you managed to keep your own counsel in the face of all the insults and all those who were trying to tear you down, including those inside the Republican Party themselves. What do you use to maintain your inner strength?
Well, it's such a great question, but, I have 2 million, more than 2 million votes more than Cruz. Lion Ted, I call him Lion Ted because I've never seen anybody lie so much. But I have 2 million votes more than Cruz, who, by the way, came up with New York values, and he hates New York. I mean, you can see that, by the anger. And he's going to do, I think, very, very poorly. Anybody in New York that would vote for this guy, he stopped relief for Hurricane Sandy. He doesn't want anything to come to New York. He is bad, bad, bad for New York. But when I look at millions of votes ahead, and by the way, 200 delegates ahead, despite the fact that it's a rigged process. It's so rigged, it's disgusting. But I think that's what keeps me going and keeps me enjoying what I'm doing, frankly.
So you're saying winning is everything to you. In other words, winning to you is enough reason to keep fighting. In other words, you don't care what the enemy is saying. All you care about is the results.
Well, the voters understand what's going on. That's why, think of it, 2 million votes more than Cruz. That's a lot of votes. And many more delegates, more than 200 more delegates than Cruz, even though it's a totally rigged system. So that's what, otherwise you would never, you wouldn't put up with it. But it's very dishonest, it's very corrupt, and it's frankly disgraceful. The delegates, you can wine them and dine them and bring them on airplanes and take them all over the place, and it's actually considered to be legal. That has nothing to do with democracy.
No, I understand that. Well, in a way, I've learned something from what you just said, and I've used a similar tactic in my own life, which is there's no such thing as bad publicity. Let them keep putting down me all they want, me while I keep rising. And I think what you just said to me is, hey, you know what? Let them say what they want about me. All that matters is the results. I think that's what you just said, isn't it?
Well, the voters get it, and they've really gotten it, and a lot of people are complaining. They actually said, hey, wait a minute. If Trump has more delegates, and if Trump has more votes by millions than the other guy, how can you even consider the other guy? And I think you're going to see a big turnout tomorrow because people are sick and tired. I'm going to bring back jobs to New York. I'm going to bring back and save people's Social Security without cuts and all of the different things we're going to do, Medicare. We're going to do things that nobody else can do. We're going to make our country rich again. We owe $19 trillion. It's going to be $21 trillion because of the omnibus budget, which is a total catastrophe that they just signed. But we're going to make our country strong again, and we're going to make it great. And for New York, we're going to bring back jobs.
Well, that's the main thing, is the economy. Donald Trump, I won't keep you any longer. I know you've got another interview between now and your trip, and I want to thank you again and wish you the greatest success in the New York primary and onward to the White House. Thank you so much for being with us on the Savage Nation.
Thanks very much, Michael. I really appreciate it. Thank you.